You are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Good morning, Los Angeles. I wanted to do the Good Morning Vietnam one, but that didn't really work, did it?
It could work. It didn't really work that time. Do you want to do
if I really wanted to do it again, can I do it again?
Yeah, go. Ready? I'll cue you.
Good morning, Vietnam! No, it didn't work either.
No, it didn't, because I said I'd cue you and you ignored that. Is that what you're like on a set?
Yeah, actually, I do what I want.
Yeah.
That's why I get fired.
Oh,
Did I say that? No, I've never actually been fired. I've never actually been fired. I must admit. Not yet, anyway. So good morning, Ethan. How are you this morning?
Bro, don't talk to me, man. I've been fired.
You haven't been fired.
I'm packing up my bags. I'm going down to the beach.
Excuse me, who said you were fired?
You just did, buddy.
No, I didn't. When?
Well, just now.
I said.
See,
I've
delusional
never been fired.
Delusional actor.
I'm sorry, people. We're just having a little issue here this morning.
Selective remembering.
Selective hearing. I wanted you to just play that show back at the end. Did anybody hear me say Ethan Dettenmaier was fired?
It doesn't matter what anyone's heard. I heard it, and that's the only thing that matters when it comes down to my job.
Is that what happened? You hearing little voices now?
No. I'm hearing your voice, and I do hear it in my head with these headsets.
Okay. Well, I think at the end of this show, we're going to play this back, and then we can have another little discussion about it maybe next week. So that anyway, we have a guest in the studio this morning, a good friend of mine who has been on numerous films, was on Aliens at one particular point, our friend Ricco Ross. He's about to arrive. He went to the wrong address.
That's actually totally typical of Ricco.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Can we talk about him now? Because while he's not here.
I talk about him when he's here.
Well, you know Ricco as well. This was funny because we were talking last week about him.
I love him. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I saw him in Calgary just recently when we did the convention, and we did some. He actually photobombed one of my. It was funny because he had his line of people, right, and then I came in to do my line of people, and he's still standing in doing the photos with the people that came into my line, and I went,
Genius,
Ricco. I think these ones are here for me because they were looking at him like. Don't I get a single picture? He went, oh yeah, I just photobombed you. I said, yeah, you did, but that's okay. 2 for 1.
Yeah,
you know.
Great personality, Ricco Ross.
Yeah, we'll be hearing from him very, very shortly.
I keep trying to convince him to run for Congress, actually.
For Congress?
Yeah.
Do you know I knew Ricco way back when I used to dance?
Oh, no, he told me the story.
Did he tell you the story about
I'm
this?
actually impressed you're willing to recount some of them here, because the ones he told me,
I would never
say on the radio.
They're always going to be biased. I used to call him barrel turn. And, we probably will have this discussion once he gets into the thing. Because at one point, we were trying to do a barrel turn. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically one person's down and then you kind of like do a half spin in the air. It's not on the ground, but it's kind of half spin in the air like a barrel. And he could never do it. He'll tell you that he could, and then I said to him, "This is how you do it." So from then on, we kept, discussing about this, and there was always kind of like a competition going backwards and forward.
He may not be able to deliver a barrel roll, but he can deliver a line with the best of them. He said some of the best lines in movie history.
Oh, I'm sure he has. Maybe he can repeat them this morning when he gets here.
Yeah, for sure he should.
But we're going to be talking about a lot of different things this morning, just so that I've actually. Our things are moving forward. We finalized a couple of logos for our paintball. We'll be posting those very shortly. We have a great gentleman that is going to be probably joining us. We're just doing contracts right now for our paintball competition. We have some people that have joined us as our new webmaster and web designers, as our project manager for our poker event. So things are really moving forward for us, which is great. Love that. We've got our golf tournament, which we now have somebody working on that. We've got social media, head of our social media now, and we're gradually putting a team together. So if any of you are really good at social media, we are looking to put a team together so that we can actually advertise everything that we are and will be doing. You can reach us at The Peace Fund. If you go to the Peace Fund site, www.thepeacefund.org, you'll find the contact information there. And we'll be having a lot more interesting stuff coming up. Unfortunately, our blog has gone down because our servers changed, and our last webmaster has disappeared from site for the past, I'd say about 3-4 months. And we can't get our blog back currently, but we are working on restoring it so we can actually bring you all the updated information on our new site and on our new blog. Now, this week we're going to be talking about clean water. We were discussing water last week, how water kills, how it can kill a child within 2 inches of water. You can actually, a child can drown, and there were so many different ways. And the safety you have to think about when you are at the beach or at the pool this summer. Summer's quickly approaching. Now we're going to talk about clean water and sanitation. And most of us take it for granted, but there are 780 million people around the world that it's, a luxury. As Americans, we take it for granted that every house has a faucet with safe water and a toilet that keeps our personal waste from human contact. Yet, that estimated 780 million people around the world rely on unsafe water sources, and 2.5 billion people live without proper sanitation. Inadequate access to safe water and sanitation services coupled with poor hygiene actually kills and sickens thousands of kids every day and leads to impoverished and diminished opportunities for thousands more. So this is one of the things we want to actually talk about this morning, about clean water, what it does. I mean, it's such a simple thing for many of us to think of. We have it running in our taps. And I think I talked about it last week. When I was a kid, my dad said to me, one day you're going to pay for water. I'm like, well, pay for water? Why would you pay for water? It comes from the sky. It's free, isn't it? And yet, we have, things have changed drastically. With clean water and good sanitation, it doesn't just help save lives. It helps children succeed. When they don't have to struggle with stomach problems, they can go to school. When parents don't have to care about sick kids, they can work and earn an income. When schools have proper sanitation facilities, helps kids in school, especially girls who are denied their right to education because their schools lack private and decent sanitation facilities. So there's some of the issues that actually face us today. And I see a face appearing gradually in the door here, and it sounds like Ricco Ross just sauntered into the room.
How are you, buddy?
This morning. Good morning, Ricco, brother. How are you?
Went to the wrong address, huh? What's up? Let me turn on your mic.
Yeah, we'll get your mic on, and you got those nice red shoes on there. You out training or something? Is this what it is?
Just me, baby. It's just me.
Just you, baby. Well, Ricco Ross. Good morning. Good morning. He's brought his sides for his next upcoming project, by the looks of things.
Are you? What is that? What are you up for? You probably can't discuss it.
No, I ain't got it, but I could discuss it. It's Malcolm X, Oprah Winfrey, and
you'd be
Brad
perfect
Pitt.
for that.
Oh,
Perfect for that.
Yeah. Keep that. Put that out there.
No, I mean that sincerely. That's right in your wheelhouse.
It is, and this is my second meeting with him. So we'll see. It's a movie called Selma. It's about. It's basically the first feature about Dr. Martin Luther King.
Is it really?
Yeah, they've done a lot of TV shows about it, but they've
never done a feature about it.
It's the first feature, and I guess when you got Brad Pitt and Oprah, they're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, they got some clout, I think.
A little bit.
Good for you, man. So when do you find out? When are you going over there today?
I go there today at 4:30. Yeah, I got another meeting. It's the second meeting. We'll
see, this is what we have to do. This is the funny thing. We spend half our time driving around this city to try and get a job half the time.
That's most of our job is trying to get a job.
That is true. So listen, we're talking about kids and sanitation and water issues and clean water around the world. And I was saying that 780 million people around the world rely on unsafe water sources, and 2.5 billion of them live without proper sanitation. So that's the jolt of this. We're talking about diarrhea and respiratory infections and pneumonia. Which are the basic two top kid killers in the world. Did you ever come from any, I know you're in Europe, but I know you're not hygiene. But anyway, I'll leave that alone. But did you ever experience, non-running water, non-sanitation when you were a kid at all? I didn't like it, but
I tell you, you'd be surprised, man. I grew up. I was born in Chicago, and in the hood in Chicago on the South Side, and I have 5 other brothers. And my parents decided that we were going to get out of Chicago because we're at that age where gangs might start being a factor. And so we moved from one extreme to the opposite end extreme. We moved from Chicago, a big city, to a farm where there was like nobody. And we were going to be farmers. And yeah, we had to have pumps. And we had to use primers. You had to prime your pump just to get it started. I don't know if you guys know about that. city slickers and everything.
No, I know about it. I just think the visual of you trying to do it is hilarious.
Yeah, this is what I want to say.
I never thought you would.
I'm glad I brought this subject up.
Wow. No, man, it was the weirdest thing. But you see, I was only 7 years old. To me, it was fun. On my 9th birthday, I got a horse. We had pigs, cows, ducks, all that. You know, it was crazy. Before a kid, a lot of city people don't realize that. But man, when you're a kid, growing up on a farm is like heaven. It's like heaven. And we were so damn poor, man. Let me tell you how poor we were. At nighttime, when we would go to sleep, in the morning time when the sun rose, we could see the cracks through the cracks in our house. We could see the sunrise come through. I mean, on Christmas time, we used to have things brought from like the government, like government cheese and cans.
Really?
And these cans, some of them didn't even have labels on them. You had to open them up to find out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was wild. But I didn't. You know, when you grow up in an environment, a lot of times that becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize how poor we were until later on when I was in high school and I went to this other high school and man, I just saw these kids and I would go back to their houses and I was like, damn, this is what it's like. Mm-hmm. You know, because to me that was like television stuff. That wasn't real. You know, that was television stuff. But interesting, you should talk about this water issue because there was this young girl, I think she was 9 years old. She passed away. But for her birthday, her last birthday, her birthday wish was that no one brought her flowers or presents or anything like that. She wanted them to donate to this cause that she wanted to. She had heard a documentary about kids in Africa who didn't have water. They had to walk miles and miles to get clean water. And she said she just wanted to build one well. And that well cost around $1,000. So that was her goal. Anyway, she passed away. I wish I could remember her name.
I bet you, John, we actually have a hero of the week every week, a child hero of the week. We dealt with water before in exactly that type of situation, really? Yeah. I'm guessing John Beerley, who's probably listening at this particular moment in time.
Probably know just who I'm talking about.
Exactly who you're talking about, and I'll bring him on in about another 5-10 minutes.
Please do, because this girl, she passed away, but her parents thought they're going to keep this foundation going. And to this day, they have made so much money. People have donated because it's a great cause. And they have built so many wells all over Africa. And I saw this thing, this kind of like follow-up on it. And the mother was out there, and she said no one had any idea that this thing would get as big as it did. Mm-hmm. And they had all these kids, you know, that were the picture of health. And they were having these pumps that cost about $1,000 in their village. So they didn't have to walk. So they didn't have to drink dirty water. So they didn't have to risk their lives just, you know, trying to get something that we take for granted every day. I mean, this comedian was talking about water. He says in America, we got so much water that even when we go take a pee, we have to flush the other pee because we want clean water to pee in, you know, and it's a very different environment.
Try telling that to the state of California, who's drought at the moment.
Right.
But you know, you talked about something a minute ago, which, you know, there are almost 2 in 3 people who need safe drinking water survive on less than $2 a day. $2 a day they survive on, who need clean drinking water. Every 20 seconds, a kid dies from water-related disease, which is basically the equivalent of jumbo jet crashing every 4 hours.
So we're not talking about a lot of money, are we?
No, we're not talking about a lot of money, but we're talking a lot of... There are a lot of great, and we will talk about them in a second, about a lot of great places that are doing things like you're discussing, cleaning up the water systems, recycling water, using seawater to actually turn it into drinking water.
Expensive.
Yeah, it can. But you know, it's like anything. You know, eventually it'll end up being it's the norm. You know, recycling. Who thought of recycling 15 years ago?
Right.
Really, now every city in the world is doing it.
Well, I've always thought it was ironic that California, you know, we have this huge coastline and surrounded by all this water, but we have a water problem. And it seems like, you know, an obvious choice to actually work on that technology.
Well, you know, anyone who saw the miniseries V would know that you can exploit the nation's resources quite easily in exactly that manner. You just park your UFO off the coast and start pumping the ocean into your spaceship.
Easy solution.
Right? Isn't that what they did on that show?
That is what they did on that show.
Thank you.
Weren't you on that?
Thank you, comic book
No,
man.
I wasn't on that.
So that was the problem. That's why it's so forgettable.
Well, there's also the remake of V too. That was they did the original V,
terrible,
and then they did the remake of V, which was I think about 6-7 years ago.
Adrian and I just did a signing for a sci-fi convention, but I remember I was doing a signing for a sci-fi convention in the past, and it was I was sitting next to the girl who was the female lead of V. That is one beautiful AZZ woman.
Really?
I'm telling you, man, she is
Which one are we talking? We talking about the new one or the old one?
The old one.
The old one.
Yeah,
Right.
she was gorgeous, man. And she could act.
That's a nominal thing, isn't it? Gorgeous and you can act. Yeah. But water. Let's let's talk about a couple of facts. You're talking about sub-Saharan Africa. Diarrhea is actually the second leading cause of child death in the world today, and the top cause of child mortality in sub-Saharan Africa. An estimated 4,100 children under the age of 5 die from diarrhea globally. That's 1.5 million children every year. Malnutrition due to dirty water, inadequate sanitation and hygiene is estimated to lead to death in an additional 2,500 kids under the age of 5 today. So, and it's not just, the interesting thing is we're talking about the actual sanitation issues, but it's also in schools. There's more than half of all primary schools in developing countries don't have adequate water facilities, and nearly 2/3 of these schools lack adequate sanitation. So what do you do? Haiti is we deal with a...
you know what I think? I think the first thing we have to do is we have to have a serious conversation about the responsibilities of corporation. We understand that profit is important, but what I think, this whole idea of bottled water, I think that becoming the norm is a great thing for those who are making the bottled water. Mm-hmm. And you heard about 50 Cent, the rapper. There's great money. There's huge money in water.
There's huge money in it. He made a lot of money.
What that means is that you have to allow the system to develop that public water is so bad that the alternative becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. When really we should be focusing on, because then it becomes an issue of economics. If you can afford to eat healthy, to drink healthy, then you're fine. But the masses that can't, then sorry for you. And I think we have to flip that. We have to flip that in the sense that this has to be the priority. That public water has to be safe, has to be clean, has to not have too much chlorine in it, or being conscious of what we're putting in the water every day. That these kids who are still developing, their brains are still developing, have to drink at school. We have to be conscious of that on the public level. And now, if we want to talk about some type of Gatorade or some type of vitamin water that gives you something extra for when you're playing sports or something like that, then that's something that I'm happy to talk about. But when it becomes the norm that you have to drink bottled water because the water running out of your faucet is yellow.
Can you remember when you actually started drinking bottled water instead of the faucet? Because I know you do.
Right.
And I know I do all the time. I actually won't drink out of the faucet anymore.
Right.
Unless now you've actually got purification systems that actually allow you to actually purify water and make it, non-acidic.
And it takes out
alkaline.
And so I have one of those machines too, and that's what I drink all the time. But then I can afford that. But what about the people who can't afford that? And
right.
that's
exactly what you're talking about. Talking about the people that cannot afford it, which are the masses most of the time, and they're drinking out of the tap, or they're drinking pop, or they're drinking some of the other non-named brands sodas and stuff. So which is not good for you. Water is your body's made up of 90-something% water.
Oh, and when these kids are drinking pop, that is worse than anything.
Yeah, because it dehydrates your body.
Exactly.
Yeah. Haiti, we deal with an organization in Haiti which has done some fantastic work, and since 2010, once the earthquake struck. The Haitian government estimates that 316,000 people died in that quake and dozens of aftershocks. But it left about 1.5 million people homeless that still live in tents and camps and stuff. And even 3 years after this earthquake leveled Port-au-Prince, it's in the grip of Haiti's in the grip of one of the most devastating cholera outbreaks in modern history. That's in today's living. We're not talking about 500 years ago. It's coming in waves since the first infections were reported in 2010. So how do you do that? There's been close to 700,000 people infected and over 8,000 have died. And so, Haiti's a population of 9.9 million. It's got 3.59 million people lack safe water. 7.3 million have no sanitation services. Infant mortality rate is 35%, and 80% live in poverty.
Haitian the Haitian country and the American country has always had an interesting history. A lot of Haitians feel that America has had a small grudge against Haiti because they were one of the first countries to demand independence. And when they demanded that independence, and it was hard to get, and they got it. And they felt that there was a certain amount of resentment because of that, because other countries followed suit. But one of the things, I talk critical about America often, but I also want to give America credit where credit is due. And when there is a crisis in the world, we answer the call. And I was very proud, as an American, the efforts that were taken when that earthquake hit, the people that went over there. That's what a hero is to me. When you do something it's not about you, it's about helping other people. I was working on a film a couple of years ago with Ken Watanabe in Japan, and we were working on this film. And after the film, he said, "I'm going to go up to where the radiation was." And he had a history of cancer himself that he beat. And I said, "Why are you going up there?" He says, "Because it's happened. The press has gone up there, and they've gone away."
That's always the way.
And he says, and it's like it's over. He says, but these people are still dealing with this, and they will be dealing with this for generations to come. And he says, if I go, I know the press will go. And that dude, that moment that's the type of hero that I find impressive. And that's what I found about some of these people, these celebrities. Since we're celebrities, I find if you have that status and you have that platform, do something good with it, man. Don't just let it be all about you. Do something good. You finally have an opportunity to do what I think is in our human nature. Most people, whatever business you're in, I think most people would like to do something good for humanity, something big for humanity. I think most people. But
the interesting issue is, you just said somebody wants to do something big. They believe that themselves aren't enough to do it, so they don't do anything at all.
Exactly.
And I think that's part of the issue. And this is one of the things we highlight when we have all the kids each week, Ethan. Right? A lot of these kids are 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 12, 13, and they're like, I want to stop the slavery, kids' slavery. And you're like, well, how are you going to do that? Mm-hmm. So they do something simple like a lemonade stand, or they do a swim, or they do something. And all of a sudden, like you said, your friend said, I want to create clean water for Africa. Now it's grown into something huge because somebody said, I don't see the problem. What's the problem? Of course we can solve this. But kids can do it. Adults, unfortunately, have been beaten down by, you can't. And, that's the issue that we're dealing with.
That's what I hope at the end of this show, out of all this conversation, that's what I hope that message comes out the clearest and rings the loudest. That it doesn't take a lot. It just takes you starting something. And you don't know what's going to happen after that, But if you do something, that's the beginning. And what happens past that, we don't have control of necessarily. But yeah, I think it's important. Kids haven't lost that yet, but a lot of grown people are so preoccupied with the daily routines of everyday life that they forget that these things are important in the big picture too. And you can include that in your daily life. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you guys are really starting this conversation, because that's where it starts. You start talking about it. People are listening to this out there right now, and some people are going to take action because of this conversation.
That's exactly why we do what we do here.
You should have run for office, man.
Actually, he was touting that you should run. What was it you were touting you should run for?
Run for Congress.
Congress. Yeah.
I actually privately guaranteed, with me as his campaign manager, I privately guaranteed a victory. I said, I promise you we will win. I promise you we will win.
We get the Ethan Dettenmaier juggernaut behind it.
Oh, I was going to guarantee you a place. It would have been fantastic too, because you're a man of honest convictions.
Thank you.
You said something a minute ago which was kind of interesting. You said, the water treatment centers are one of the things to actually change the natural water that we have. And we were talking about Haiti, and actually I'm looking at some of the thing here. It actually basically says there is water in Haiti, right? But less than 1% of the available water is actually in the resources they use, because there's few treatment facilities on the island. So you could actually change what you have as a natural resource into something. The issue is, and this again comes the issue, when you're in such poverty, and there's a certain domino effect that happens, is that you actually have to get rid of the corruption first, so that some of these facilities and the money that goes to actually build them goes to doing exactly that, rather than going in some individuals' pockets. You know, the organization we deal with, Mercy and Sherry, which has, you know, over 100, 150 kids that they take off the streets that have different issues, whether they've been left on the street, whether they've been taken away from child slavery, whether they've been left in a bed and are what's the word? They can't walk on their own, they can't think on their own, they're mentally challenged. They deal with all these kids, but there are those organizations are run by somebody that actually has some sort of they show you where the money's going to. And that's what's important, because, you know, a lot of these places you don't. So people that do go out there, and this is what the reason this show is to say, okay, there are organizations out there, and we pick them out and we say, look, have a look at these organizations, because they are doing the difference, and you can trust them, because that's the key. I mean, a few weeks ago, I actually outlined a whole bunch of organizations, charitable organizations, that make millions and give nothing back. They go into the pockets of lawyers, they go into the pockets of the people that run it. And those organizations, I'm going to bring them back on in another couple of weeks to actually highlight them again.
Outing, baby.
No, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting. Charity is supposed to be, like you're talking about, you as a celebrity, I as a celebrity, Ethan as a juggernaut in the radio and everything else world. Basically, you know, we come and we try and do something in our small way to actually highlight this stuff to people, because we believe that we can do something for it. No. We don't do it because we're going to make money out of it. You know, I mean, somebody said to me, "Oh, do you take a salary for the Peace Fund?" I said, "I've never taken a salary in 15 years. I don't take a salary." And we don't do that, because to me, a little bit of my time is worth something else to me and my children and the children's children.
That is your salary. You know, when you see that something that you've started and that you've been a part of actually ends up being successful, that's the payoff right there. And that kind of payoff is better than money, you know. And sometimes that payoff leads to money, and that's great if it does. But, you know, if you go in there for the right reasons, I think that's what's more important.
Do we have John Beerley on there? I'm sure we'll bring John on. I'm just, while we're doing that, actually, you know, there's you know, when you wash your hands, I mean, talking about like healthy stuff. Is John there?
Yes.
I heard a breath
Adrian
go on
and Ethan
there.
And Ricco Ross, welcome to Peace Fund Radio.
Oh, thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Ricco, I'm telling you, man, it is an honor to be on the air with you. Aliens has been a huge blueprint in my own writing, because between James Cameron's screenplay and the perfect performances by you and your fellow cast members, it just so immediately establishes each Marine and each Marine's personality and place on the team, so that by the time things start to go badly, you know who every character is and you care a lot about them. And that really says a lot about your
you know,
work
I remember when you
Absolutely
were on there,
love
like,
it, man.
I remember seeing that. I'm like, Rico's on Alien? What the hell is he doing on that?
He's Frost, man.
You know what's crazy, though? Let me give you a little quick side story to this. He was on Aliens, and because of that, he had to refuse a job with Stanley Kubrick on Full Metal Jacket, which was shooting up the block.
That's right. Right.
A little Ricco trivia right there.
That was a hard time, man. But I think I made the decision. Yeah.
Adrian's like, what? Really?
Well, hold on a minute.
Stanley
Full
Kubrick.
Metal Jacket, man, or Aliens.
As Private Snowball.
It was like, yeah. James Cameron, who really wasn't the name of that time, or Stanley Kubrick. You know, it was that thing.
Well, I wish a lot of us had that problem most of the time.
Yeah, I wish I had that problem too.
So, John, did you hear what we were talking about earlier?
Yes, that is Rachel Beckwith. She was 9 years old. She decided that she wanted to start raising some money to build wells in Africa. She was killed in a car accident. She had only raised a few $100s when she was killed in her car accident, but after she passed away, donations started rolling in her name. $1.26 million worth of donations in Rachel's name that was able to fund 149 wells in several communities in Ethiopia. Now, that's very important, because it costs about 3 to 5 times as much money to build a well in Ethiopia as it does in any other place in Africa, because of how rough and dense the terrain there is. About a year after her daughter passed away, her mother Samantha was able to go and visit the wells that had been built by this money that was raised in her daughter's name. And she said that everywhere she looked, there was a picture of Rachel. There was someone who had a poster of Rachel, had Rachel's picture on a T-shirt. She would go to a church, and there would be a picture of Rachel in the church. For forever and ever, Rachel's work and her deeds will live on in this community of people whose lives she literally saved by bringing them clean water. Absolutely amazing stuff.
Isn't that a beautiful story, man?
It is, and I've got more stories for you guys today. I've got some stories you're not going to believe this morning. I know that we've heard some very difficult statistics and numbers about how water sanitation can negatively affect, bad water sanitation can affect the lives of children. First, I wanted to quickly revisit a few of the heroes of the week that we have had on the show before, who have done some incredible things with water. We had Emma Ryder. Since Emma was 13 years old, she's 16 now. She worked with waterstep.org to collect more than 70,000 pairs of shoes and raise more than $35,000 to train volunteers and to build and maintain sustainable water solutions in more than 30 countries. We've got Lulu Cerrone, the daughter of Adrian's Highlander co-star Lisa Howard. Lulu is 15 years old now. For over the past 5 years, she's raised more than $60,000 to build wells around the world. She urges all kids to turn compassion into action. We had Catherine and Isabel Adams, ages 7 and 10. These little girls learned origami from their father, origami is hard for any person, Japanese paper folding, to do. But they learned it when they were little girls and have used that art to sell origami figures and things. They raised more than $350,000 to build wells in India and other countries. And you will not believe the latest story that we've got, our new hero of the week. This is one of my favorites. We've been on the air.
They're all my favorites, John.
I'll tell you what, man. These are all so good, and these stories every week, I can't believe these stories. This one is going to blow you guys away. Let's go back in time. The year is 1998. 6-year-old Ryan Hurljack is sitting in his first grade classroom in Ontario, hearing a lesson about how children in Africa often get sick and even die because they don't have access to clean water. Now, Ryan's heart is broken by this, so he rushes home. He tells his mom, Susan, and his dad, Mark, I need to do as many chores as it takes to raise $70 because that's how much my teacher said it would take to build a well in Africa. So after 4 months of hard work, Ryan calls a Canadian organization called WaterCan, and he says, hey guys, my name is Ryan. I'm 6 years old. I've got $70. I'm ready to build a well. And WaterCan says, buddy, it sounds like either you or your teacher misinterpreted some information because it doesn't cost $70 to build a well here. It costs $2,000 to build a well. Now put yourself in Ryan's shoes for a second. Wow. You've just worked hard for 4 months, only to have your dreams dashed by the staggering news that you're $1,930 short of your goal. Now Ryan could have given up and bought himself $70 worth of comic books and candy bars at this point. Instead, he did what all of our Peace Fund Radio Heroes of the Week have done when a grown-up said no. He went back to work. Chores for his family, chores for his neighbors, every kind of fundraiser his little mind could devise. And at the age of 7, in January of 1999, the Canadian Physicians for Aid and Relief, which you can read about at cpar.ca, drilled Ryan's first well beside the Anglo Primary School in northern Uganda. Mission accomplished, right?
Shut the
Wrong.
front door. Really? Is more?
Oh, yeah, this is where it starts. This is the
Really?
great part of it. Yeah.
This is where it starts. Yes. So, of course, you're thinking, okay, mission accomplished, right? He built his well. Nope, he's not done. Ryan kept raising money, and that money kept building wells. And by 2001, he had founded the Ryan Wells Foundation, which you can find at ryanswell.ca. Now, Jimmy Akana was one of the boys who attended the school beside Ryan's first well in Uganda. He and Ryan became friends and pen pals. This is where the story just gets, this is crazy. In 2003, Jimmy's village is attacked by violent rebels who abduct Jimmy. Now, Jimmy knows that, okay, my captors have lots of options here for what they can do with me. They can use me as ransom. They can sell me into slavery to make some quick money to buy more weapons to launch more raids to capture more kids. Or they could use Jimmy to bolster their own ranks by breaking him and training him to be a soldier, forcing him to be a killer and a rapist and a taker of children just like they are. And when Jimmy refused this training, which he would have done because he was a good boy with a good heart, they would have beaten him to death. Now, most people in that situation would have lost all hope. But Jimmy thought about his pen pal Ryan. He remembered the days before Ryan's well had been built. Days when he would walk 30 miles every night, 3 10-mile round trips, to collect a pathetic amount of filthy, disease-ridden water that Jimmy says looked like hot chocolate and was warm like hot chocolate, but most certainly did not taste like hot chocolate. Ryan had given Jimmy's people hope. From that hope, Jimmy found courage and strength, and he used that courage and strength to escape his captors. Jimmy ran, and he ran and ran and ran until he finally ran into someone he knew, a man named Tom Omak, who was a project coordinator for Ryan's Well in Uganda. Tom called Ryan's family to let them know that Jimmy was okay, and Jimmy's family was like, well, okay, well, we've already opened our hearts to this kid. Let's open our home. And they brought Jimmy over to Canada to live with them. Jimmy became a Canadian citizen. He went to high school with Ryan. He and Ryan graduated high school together. And in 2012, Jimmy graduated from St. Xavier University in Nova Scotia. Now, can you imagine this from Jimmy's point of view? I mean, you're a little boy who lives in a village where you're kidnapped by rebels, where you've spent your life walking 30 miles a day to collect filthy, disgusting water that's not enough to do anything with. And now you get to go to college and graduate. It's just a beautiful story. Now, as for Ryan will turn 23 years old this Saturday. He just completed degrees in political science and international studies from King's College in Halifax, and he remains active in the foundation he created. And so does Jimmy, who continues to work for the foundation and still accompanies Ryan on his trips around the world that have resulted in more than 800 completed water projects, 1,000 latrines that have impacted more than 800,000 people. They've worked with 650 schools in 30 countries, and their message reaches 120,000 people a year. Now, Ryan's mother, Susan, says this about Ryan, and I think this is just beautiful. Ryan treats everyone he meets in the same way. In his heart, we all make a difference, whether we are prime ministers, gas station attendants, or students. He believes in his heart that the 5-year-old girl from Florida who sent him 5 cents from doing chores is as important as the man from Dubai who sent him $5,000. As for Ryan, he said in an interview about 8 years ago, I've learned that every child needs certain things if they're going to be healthy and happy, no matter where they live. Kids need clean water and sanitation. They need enough food to eat. They need to be able to go to school. And they need a chance to play and have fun. That way, they can help out in the world, too. The world is like a great big puzzle, and we all have to figure out where our puzzle piece fits. I figure my piece fits with clean water. I just hope everyone else finds out where their puzzle piece fits too. That's how beautiful is that?
And
for
just
a child his age to see the world in that way, and to know that if he keeps doing what he's doing, that he can inspire other children to do the same. And I want to follow it up with one more quick quote from Ryan that I think is probably my favorite. Little people can do big jobs, and you don't have to be a grown-up to make a difference. And Ryan has certainly proven that. If you go to ryanswell.ca, you will find details on every single project he's completed. You can check him out on Twitter at @theryanswell, facebook.com/ryanswell, and youtube.com/Ryanswell Foundation. I think my favorite video on there is one where Ryan visits his well in Uganda for the very first time. And you see this wide-eyed little boy being driven down this long dirt road that is lined by people who are cheering and clapping and singing for this young man who brought them water, who brought them opportunity, and who brought them life. So Ryan Wells, you are our Peace Fund Radio Hero of the Week.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And just because that started from $70.
Yeah, when he was 6 years old.
I think you have to give a lot of credit to his parents too.
Yeah, we discuss it every week because his parents push him into doing it, because a lot of parents could say, no, you can't.
Yeah, and once a child finds a passion, the parents often, don't take it as their passion. But if you support that child's passion, you can see what could happen. That's a beautiful.
There are a couple of other organizations regarding water that are doing things. Water.org, co-founded by Gary White and Matt Damon. It's a non-profit organization that's transformed hundreds of communities in Africa Asia, Central America, by basically providing access to safe water and sanitation. So there are celebrities out there that are doing what we discussed.
Right.
It's not all of them, because again, I think, everybody puts celebrities on a pedestal saying, well, they've got this, they've got their managers, they've got this, they know what they're doing. Well, no, I think a lot of celebrities actually think, well, what could I do? I mean, all right, I'd like to do something, but if you're not as a big celebrity as you think, you just don't think that maybe you could make a difference, or nobody's pointed you in the right direction, or nobody's done what we do, is discuss these issues, and they go, oh, I could do that. And I think that's what we're all about. Another place, America Cares, www.americacares.org, a non-profit emergency response and global health organization. They partner with Love a Child, www.loveachild.com, which is another humanitarian organization serving the needs of kids in Haiti through an orphanage, with feeding programs. And America also remains the forefront of the fight against deadly diarrhea diseases, which we basically said was one of the biggest killers of children in the world today. And what's a really interesting statistic is 97% of their expenses support programs and relief for people in need. 97%. Do you know how hard that is to have 97% of what
anything?
Well, because basically things cost money. When you actually run an organization like a charity, you do have expenses. You've got things to do, and it does cost money to do that. So 97% is actually a very good statistic. And the last one is, we had Roger Moore on here like 2 weeks ago, UNICEF, which works in 100 countries around the world to improve water supplies and sanitation facilities in schools and communities, and to promote safe hygiene practices. So these are some of the organizations that are out there that you can actually check out, as well as Ryan's Wells, which we discussed this morning. And I think we've got a couple of events coming up. We've got our poker event later in this year, and we've got our paintball competition event. Yeah, that's going to be a hell of. We've got quite an interesting. Actually, the funny thing is, I said that my phone rang, and it was the guy that's actually discussing running that event right now. It's so funny. I actually just said that. Obviously, I can't take it, we're going to focus on something, and I've been actually thinking about clean water as having one of those, being one of the issues that we actually put some of the money we make to those types of issues. So I'm going to be looking at certain organizations that are actually on the ground to actually create that. And there's actually didn't we discuss this a few weeks ago, Ethan? The mayor of Los Angeles' brother runs a wells program, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, I've worked with him on it, actually. It's his father, Gil Garcetti.
Former
district attorney. Eric Garcetti's his son.
Right, and he has a program whereby if you raise a certain money for one well, they'll match it. Was that?
I don't know what the conditions of the program are now, but he's pretty passionate about it, and we were going to do some fundraisers for wells with him. And, he's a big photographer now. That's his passion. So he'll go to Africa and shoot the whole process of the well, the culture before the well going in, the culture after the well. And he broke it down in a similar fashion about the amount of walking people do and how it, you put a well in and it leads to all kinds of things, school and economy, a whole change of the local self-esteem. It's just a miraculous change. It's actually a bigger deal than I think people realize.
Well, actually, it's an organization called Wells Bring Hope, and I'm just looking it up because we were actually looking at doing something like this when we actually partnered with Microsoft early in the year to bring hygiene kits to kids in Haiti. We were looking at that organization as being one of the things actually raising money and using that organization to facilitate the building of these wells, because they actually. Well, I'm just trying to bring them up right now to see what they have here, because it was an interesting organization that was there. But
one of the things that I think is interesting about today's conversation is that very often it is adults and people in the media that influence others, and I'm very inspired by Ryan's story. That a kid that age could do what he did, and that he stuck with it. I mean, I'm extremely inspired by it. My daughter has gone, like the last 2 summers, she's taken off And one summer she went and spent about a month in Honduras, and she was there with an orphanage. And then she also spent a month in Panama, where she was helping the turtles, because they have a problem with the turtles' eggs being not taken care of, and it was affecting the population of the turtles. So there are a lot of things that you can do, and it doesn't have to be that expensive, but it also doesn't have to be just like work. These things can be fun. These things can be these things can open your mind. This can be an education that doesn't feel like school, like in a class. When you do these things, when you go out and you find some cause, there's so much more that comes with it than just the time, the work that you put in there. And I think that people have to understand that and understand that it is possible. With all these organizations, it is possible. And now we don't have an excuse. You've got the internet out there. You can push a couple buttons and you can find out what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did bring up Wells Bring Hope, Gil Garcetti's organization that he supports, and I believe he actually funded it. Just looking at it, he actually ran this organization, and it is committed to bringing safe water to areas around Africa.
Are they still matching?
Yes, they're matching funds. I'm just looking at what they're doing here. They to fund one well is $5,600. They will match it by World Vision, which gives you $11,200, which is the cost of one well, which then plus $20,000 additional funds provided by World Vision gives them $30,000 of valued services delivered to a village over 15 years. So they've got a really interesting program here that we're going to be looking at a little bit more, because it's like anything, like you said, whenever anything happens or there is an issue, it doesn't go away overnight. It affects generations to come. It's not just, oh yeah, it's done, we can move on. No, it's the kids and their families and on and on and on. So I think it actually a well is one of those things that brings life to a village in more ways than one. It brings it economic growth, it gives it sanitation, it brings it education, it brings it so many different things. So, like we talk a lot of the time when we're talking about helping a kid, you're not just helping one kid, you're helping the domino effect that affects that kid and what they do and what their parents and their friends, etc. do. So I think that's something really to sort of...
that's very well put, Adrian.
John, did you have anything else this morning?
Yes, two quick things. I know we're running out of time. First, as you know, the Peace Fund recently partnered with Microsoft, who, as part of their Giving Back campaign, provided hygiene kits to Mercy and Sharing, our partner on the ground in Haiti. Those kits have been delivered in time for the rainy season and to combat the increase in cholera cases. You can find out about Mercy and Sharing at mercyandsharing.com or haitichildren.com. And secondly, from myself and from Beverly Shahara, who works tirelessly behind the scenes to bring you all of this great information every week, happy birthday to Adrian Paul tomorrow. Listen, without Adrian's vision and his dedication, there would be no Peace Fund. This man works tirelessly to protect, educate, and aid children everywhere, and it is an honor to be a part of that. Adrian, thank you so much for bringing this all together.
Thanks, John. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'll be 32 tomorrow.
Again? You'll just be 1 year older than me then.
Hey! I always knew I was younger than you. Barrel turn. That's all I'm going to say. Barrel turn. We discussed that before you were here this morning, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ethan said he has all his versions of it.
I stood up for you.
Good man. Okay, way to have my back.
Yeah. So, John, thank you for bringing that this morning. And again, thank you to all the people that have joined us this morning. The show's gone by very quickly, as it always does. We are... all the people that have joined us recently on the Peace Fund and that will be joining us, thank you for your support and your time, because I know that's a valid commodity these days is time. But thank you to all of you that are doing that. Obviously, John mentioned Beverly Shahara. We have Carmel McPherson. We have Annie Christie. We have Camille Oakley. We have so many people that are running this organization. And to all of you out there that are listening that have donated, thank you again. And without you, we couldn't do it. I want to thank also the Speechley family for providing funding again to us to make this show possible. And thank you to Mr. Ricco Ross for joining us this morning. Thanks for coming in, man.
My pleasure, man. It's a worthy cause, man. Nice to talk about something that really matters.
Well, we talk about ourselves most of the time when we go into interviews and stuff, and we kind of did that at the beginning. But that's but there are other issues that we can deal with.
Definitely.
So in closing, we're gonna have a quote from Ryan. Now, it's funny. John actually sent me. John, are you still there? Did you leave?
He's done.
Oh, he's done. Okay. So John this morning actually said to me, he said, "I want to make sure that you pronounce his name right because." It's actually Hurajak, John Hurajak. So this is going to be a quote this morning from This is a quote from Ryan Hurajak. Water is essential to all life. I hope my story is a reminder that we can all make a difference. It applies to each and every one of us. This is Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier. You'll be hearing from us again soon.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.